Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door Net Admin. Some time ago, well over a year ago, I did a video on ethical e-wasting, and I talked a bit about how e-waste, or secondhand electronics, can be used by admins and aspiring admins to help further your skills by putting together a lab environment or a test environment, something where you can try new things without trying them in production on company networks where mistakes will have a much larger impact. And that's still true. But I wanted to discuss it a little bit more because of a comment that I received this week from somebody who is using that equipment or seeking to use such equipment in an educational environment. And this is actually a really good idea. The networking lab that I had a lot of my formative networking experience in did not have brand new top of the line equipment. It's just not possible. In many educational environments, you have to work with equipment that isn't necessarily brand new, but it needs to be the right price. You still want it to be useful for people to learn on, but price is a really big thing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And the fact is, yes, for some environments like educational environments or home lab environments, or to some degree, even nonprofits, sometimes you have to make do with what you've got. And it's more important to have something there, to have a capability, than it is necessarily to have top of the line equipment, modern. For businesses, no question in my mind, you want something that is new, so that it's got warranty, so that it's got the support that you need if something goes wrong with it. You really are investing when you're working in a business. But the same is true in an educational environment. But what you're investing in primarily is in the educational opportunity. You're not investing in reliability. You're not investing in how many thousands of dollars you're going to be losing per hour if you can't do business. You need the equipment to be there to function for education. So it's a very, very different mindset that you use when you're looking at it. And the same is true for a home lab. You're investing in your own education. You need it to be there so that you can play with it. You don't necessarily need it there because it needs to be running reliably 24/7. If you have that kind of need in a home lab, I really want to know why. So let's take a look at some of the places that I have been to. I will caveat this by saying this is not advertising. Nobody has paid me to talk about any of this. I am only sharing places that I have been to or places that I would use. And that's all. I'm not making any recommendations, and I'm not saying these are the right people, these are the best people. None of that. There are a lot of places that do this. These are examples. Examples that are specific to my location physically in the real world may or may not be convenient for you. So use these as ideas, clock them, and then see if you can find a similar place in your own area. All right, so let's start with Re-PC. This happens to be a recycled computer place in Seattle that I have been to a lot of times. A lot of times. Usually to the resignation and or annoyance of some of my friends, just because they're like, oh, you're going to Re-PC again. How many hours are we going to spend this time? I have gotten a lot from Re-PC over the years. I have got routers. I have got switches. I have gotten. Have I gotten servers? I know I've definitely gotten wireless routers and wireless equipment as well. But I've also gotten the spare odd part for something that I have here and there, whether that's a laptop that needs a piece of equipment, or whether that's a new expansion card that I saw for a Cisco router. I'm like, ooh, that's a DSL modem. I really, really, really want that. Okay, sure, fine. They've been doing this for quite some time. And so that is something that I have definitely enjoyed. You'll note they have an eBay store. They apparently have coming soon some virtual sales floors. I don't know what that's about. And there's also the fact that their available floor space has decreased a lot over the years, which for me personally makes it somewhat less feasible. It's also the fact that they're in Seattle, and I have not been able to go to Seattle for quite some time, and I don't see myself being able to do that in the near future. But recycling, it's a great way to do it. Another one that I used to occasionally look at was 3R Technology. Now, this has now joined with CTL, apparently, and it has a really, really, really stuttery video from time to time. But 3R Technology used to have the ability to actually go there and take a look at things. Last time I went, they said they just sell online now. So, okay, if selling online is what they do, then that's a possibility as well. Another one, more locally, Reboot Canada. And in this one, there's an office in Vancouver. They also have one in Toronto and one in Peterborough. This actually, in the Vancouver case, grew out of a group called Free Geek Vancouver. And Free Geek, much like the others, focused on bringing donated equipment in, refurbishing it, and then giving it at below market cost, or in some cases, donating it entirely to people who had a documented need. And Reboot apparently does the same thing from what I've seen. One that I mentioned in my previous ethical e-wasting video is the Electronics Recycling Association, or Electronic Recycling Association, I should say. And this is much the same thing. They can come, they can pick up donated equipment from companies that are e-wasting their equipment, and then it can be donated to people with a documented need. These all have a common theme. They're taking old equipment, they're recycling it, whether that is re-PCing, rebooting, 3R recycling, or electronic recycling. It's all recycling. That's the common thread. And so that is a way to move things from business, where they're no longer at optimal capacity, but move them into another environment, such as nonprofits, people with financial need, or educational environments, so that they can be used again. Another resource is your standard online retail, not even retail, your online facilities. I'm thinking things like eBay. I'm thinking things like Craigslist. If we pop open eBay, and if I just do a search for Cisco Lab, hey, we've got items for Cisco Lab. We've got a lab kit with firewall. We've got a home lab kit. We've got another lab kit. These are all set up for people who need a set of devices. For Cisco Labs in particular, that's usually a couple switches and a couple routers, so that you can simulate a minimal network of a switch on either end, a router, and then the cable between them simulates your internet connection. And if we take a look at this, just for interest's sake, we can take a look at it and see that this particular kit has, a 3560X and a 2960S. I still actually have some clients who are using the Cisco 2960S switch. This one looks like it's fast Ethernet only, so 100 megabit. And certainly my customers with 2960Ss, we're working on getting those replaced because they've been in there for quite some time. But for a home lab kit or for an educational institution, it might be, never mind might, it would be much, much more feasible to have two routers, two switches in, a 12U rack for, what's this, $400 Canadian? Or whatever that would translate to in US or whatever your local currency is. It's a lot more affordable than trying to buy equipment brand new. And so this is something that is available to people who are just wanting something that is self-contained and you don't have to worry about it. It does cost a little bit of money though. As a contrast, when I was going to Re-PC, I would find these switches similar to this, and I would find them often for, $90, $60. But if it was completely untested, they would often just write as is $30. $30 for one of those switches is a steal, provided it works. As is, there's no warranty, there's no guarantees, and you have to know what you're doing because nobody's going to clean it up for you. Nobody's going to, do all the repairs and whatnot. But if you're working on a budget, or if you are a network admin who is trying to learn how to work with these things, that kind of experience can be invaluable. And the big thing, it does save on the money, that's for sure. So those are ideas on things that you can do. Something I will note specifically for Cisco equipment though, which is just what I happen to have the most knowledge on because it's what I trained on and it's largely what I administer now. Under the terms of Cisco's licensing agreements, these devices are really not supposed to come with any operating system whatsoever. The hardware can be resold, but not the software on it. Now, have I ever seen one of these devices come with no software on it whatsoever? No, I haven't. Every single one of these that I have ever gotten has had some software on it. Many still had old configuration files from their old businesses still on them too. Naughty, naughty admins, you mustn't give away equipment like that still has active configuration on it. But leaving that aside, you're not going to be able to get current up-to-date software unless you have a support contract with Cisco. And that can be a problem. That often also leads to people acquiring software from other sources. No, I'm not going to tell you where to go get it. I'm not going to tell you that it's a good idea either. I'm just saying people do this, and it's silly to not just acknowledge a fact. So what you get on there in terms of the software version is probably what you get. And, if we're going strictly by licensing, maybe you don't even get that, in which case consider it a learning opportunity on how to do an emergency recovery of software from scratch when there's nothing on the system whatsoever. You do that a few times, you learn how to just go, oh, okay, so this doesn't have software. I'd better put some on there. I did that in the networking lab more than once, let me tell you. But that's probably enough talking for now. So these are ideas for how you can get this kind of equipment and begin really working on it. If you can get equipment through your job as companies cycle out old equipment, by all means do that. That's an excellent opportunity to take advantage of. But even if you can't, look for computer recyclers, look for electronics recyclers in your area. See if they have a storefront, or possibly if they're willing to donate to a nonprofit or an educational institution. See what you can work out, because sometimes that is an excellent way of getting equipment that will work for you and is useful for you without having to pay top dollar. And if you're needing very specific equipment as kits for certifications or for practicing in a home lab environment, then you might be able to find them on other sites like eBay, Craigslist, Kijiji, and other peer-to-peer marketplaces, shall we say. Use all of your usual internet safety skills to make sure that you're not ripped off or anything, but it's another opportunity for you to acquire this sort of equipment. And that's pretty much all that I've got for you today. If you have thoughts on other things that you would like to hear me talk about, or things that you think would be cool if I covered, feel free to let me know right down there in the comments section. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I am your next door net admin, and we will see you next time.